I don't do intros, so we're just gonna awkwardly lean into it. Why is nostalgia so gut wrenching? I think I'm not gonna say my truth is the absolute truth, of course. If it's coming out my mouth, it's just my opinion. But I think I reached a bit of an understanding that actually makes sense to me. I don't want to keep repeating my opinion, so just know it's my opinion. Time is not linear. So past, present, future are all happening at the same time. Yes. But how? That doesn't make any... We're not meant to fully understand that. Our brain, our bodies are amazing, but they are so limited. And they're limited for a reason, because we're not meant to understand everything. We're not meant to know everything, and that's okay. That's one of the major lessons that all of us have to learn, especially physicists. Yeah. I've always struggled with nostalgia. I'm not gonna make this about me, but I know so many people feel this way as well. The summer scent, that winter morning scent, or certain perfumes, or certain songs, like especially Flawed Mango songs. Like, oh my god, I don't know what this person put into his fucking songs, but like, thank you, because that's crazy. But yeah, and every single time I genuinely feel like I'm about to die. Like, how do I deal with it? Okay, like now it's okay, but most of my life I was always like, okay, like I feel like I'm about to die, like I can never go back to that time. It's crazy. I've kind of lost everything, right? I think one of the biggest thing about nostalgia is that it feels like grief, but it's a weird type of grief because there's still like an attachment to it. When someone passes away and, in my opinion, goes to the astral realm, it's kind of easier to accept because you know that their physical body is not here anymore, and that's okay. Like, yes, it hurts a bit and it feels like shit for a bit, but then you're like, all right, fair enough. Like, that shit's gonna be happening to me as well. But nostalgia feels so weird because it feels so alive in your mind. And the fact that so many people on TikTok and social media adopt phrases such as, you can go back, but no, you won't find anyone. Like, are you trying to make people like off themselves? Like, please, no. So okay, this is my little context, okay? I don't know. Listen, I live on the main road, so you're gonna be hearing a lot of ambulance and police, so don't mind that. Let's talk about why it's so painful. The reason why, I mean, I touched on it saying that it feels like grief. It feels like a different type of grief because it's actually still happening. That moment that you think of feels so weird to think of because it's still happening. So that quote, oh my god, like honestly, it's like they waited for me to start the video. Guys, it's London, that's how it is. So, one sec, let me rewind. That quote that people use about, you can go back, but you won't find anyone, or something like that. It's not true. You can go back and everyone is still there. When I say time is not linear, I mean that past, present, and future are all happening at the same time. So that means that the future version of yourself is literally just out there doing his or her thing. They are just fully adults. There's versions of yourself that are old and wrinkly, and there's also the version of yourself that's a newborn, and the version of yourself that's in primary school, and so on. So it's weird to even think about, because our brain are not built to understand that. We just meant to acknowledge it, kind of like the concept of God. Like, we're not meant to fully understand how that works. You just either believe in it or you don't. And I think time is kind of the same thing. I mean, the universe obviously doesn't work in clocks and minutes, but it does have, in my opinion, its own type of events that kind of, I don't want to say play in a loop, because it's not like you're suffering, it's just repeating itself for eternity. Like, no. But it is kind of like loopy to think about. When people say it's important to heal your inner child, it's because your inner child still exists. And not just in a metaphorical way, like it's still within you, like when you like your favorite cartoon or something like that. No. Like, yes, but also that version of yourself that went through a traumatic event, and every single event that you ever went through still exists. That child that went through that horrible time is still going through it right now, like as we speak. So when people say connect with your inner child, I know people don't really like to explain it. Thank you for confirming. I know people don't really like to explain it, because a lot of times they either don't know, or they just assume people know what they mean. When someone says connect with your inner child, they literally mean go back in time and connect with them. How do you do that? You think about it. When people also say, like, all of those cliches, what's annoying about cliches? That people love using those quotes and not explaining them, not explaining what to do with them. So people are like, yeah, like that's the same BS everyone says. You want to heal a certain part of you, you do have to go back to your inner child. And mind you, the inner child is not like just your 5-year-old self. No. In my opinion, I personally believe your inner child is up to 19 years old. Okay, so birth until the end of teenage years. And then the rest, it's still kind of times you can heal from, but we just focus on inner child, because that's where most of the trauma happens and most of the toxic coping mechanisms start. So if you want to heal something about you, you have to go back in time, and you do that by thinking about it. You just imagine it. It's like tuning on a radio station. You just think about it, and there you go. You're there. And this is really powerful, and you can do that through meditation. And I don't know what people think about when people say meditation. Meditation is not just being like, no. It's sitting and focusing on something, or just focusing on not focusing on anything. There's so many types of meditations out there, and you don't even have, like, there's no right way to do it. Just whatever makes you feel good is meditating. That's it. If you want to do that, you have to find a comfortable space. I I've always done it laying down, because why am I gonna sit up and like, no, I'm laying down and just connecting with that version of myself. Imagine it in front of you and speak to them. Oh, but I don't know what they would say, because that's you. And you can just, it's more like guessing, and rewriting, kind of like rewriting history in a sense. That's why it's healing. And you know what's the loopy part about this? That you go back in time by thinking about it and reconnecting with that version of yourself. And if you give them the support that that version of yourself needed, you're working towards healing that specific traumatic event. Does that make sense? So it's like, what got you through that time was you all along. You just didn't know it yet. Just like now, a young adult or teenager, whatever, or an adult, or like you're 70, 80, 90, if you going through a hard time and you get through it, it's most probably because a future, again, because, I mean, past, present, future don't really make any fucking sense. But it's because a version of yourself is helping you get through it. So it's kind of like a weird like loop. And the moment you do this, it's like you're rewriting your life. Now, it's not that you never had anyone. You got yourself through that. A version of you helped yourself get through that. And by giving them the love that you needed and that you never received, the support, the words, you are helping them. Because at the end of the day, if you're here and you're watching this, you've gone through hard times and you thought, okay, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. Or this is the worst thing that ever happened to me, especially as a child. We think that every bad moment is like the worst thing that could ever happen to us. And then you get through it. Isn't that weird? So even though some people just take it for granted, it's actually a weird concept. You got through something that you thought you were never going to get through. Yeah. So I connected it to inner child healing because I think it's something that all of us really need to focus on, especially during these times of Trump and like, yeah. We really need to connect with ourselves more than ever. And one of the ways to do it is this. Think about that version of yourself. It's not gone. It's still there. And if you feel nostalgic about like a time where you was not a child, it's still the same thing. Like you can still go back. You can go back. And if you don't want to just imagine it, which again is really powerful, and imagining it is not the way people and society want you to think. It's rewriting things, okay? It's kind of like manifesting, but I think people have the wrong idea of manifesting. So I might just do a separate video on this. But yeah, does that make sense? So, moral of the story is, when you feel nostalgic, don't think of it as grief or a loss of something. Whatever you miss from that, you need to think about it and take note of it. Like if you think about, I don't know, if you're nostalgic towards a time when you went to the beach, I don't know, just saying, could be anything. Make note of what was happening, the environment, the people, the vibe, anything that stood out to you that you're missing, and just incorporate that in your present. So say for example, You used to go to the beach often with your family, stuff like that. Okay, try and do that again. I know it's easier said than done. I know it's harder now. We're not children anymore, so we don't have all that free time and being taken care of all the time, but you can still do that, okay? And this is like the practical way to feel like you can still have that, because you can still have those moments. And secondly, you can also go back to that time. When you think of yourself as a child or as a whatever age, you're going back to that time. Okay, so you also have to face whatever trauma you went through. So you're gonna have to relive it, and you have to be ready for that. All I can tell you is it just feels scarier than it actually is. Okay, I know some people go through terrifying things and they feel scarred for life, but you don't have to carry that burden for the rest of your life. Okay, so you can either or do both. Incorporate elements from good memories that you feel nostalgic about into your life, and also use your imagination, the power that you have to use your own mind to go back to that time and deal with what happened and be the force that got you through it. Now that I think about it, how the heck did I, oh yeah, like nostalgia in a child, and then for some reason I discussed traumatic events. But listen, to be honest, there's a reason why I felt source and spirit and the universe guided me to discuss that, because you may need to know this at this time. So whatever, fuck it. This video is a mess, and that's okay. I don't care. It's just, you got the point. So in other words, nostalgia is not actually real. So stop crying. No, but seriously, you should feel your emotions, but don't get dragged and don't lose yourself in them. Nostalgia, I think, is one of the hardest feelings to deal with. It's a mix of grief and homesickness and sadness and happiness and confusion. It's so messy. It's such a messy emotion. So make sure that you don't let that drown you. Yeah, everything's okay. You didn't lose anything. The version of yourself going through that amazing time that you feel nostalgic about is still going through them. You can just chill with that version of yourself. They are still there. Everyone is still there. You didn't lose anything. You didn't lose anyone. Okay? That's why I'm not really scared of death. Because I ain't going nowhere. Truthfully, I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. Just because you can't see me doesn't mean that I'm gone. Just because you can't see time for what it is doesn't mean, just because you can't see the past version of yourself and the future version of yourself doesn't mean they don't exist. If we have to base our opinion on what we are able to perceive, we are fucked. Honestly. Even something so simple like color vision. We know there's so much we're missing. Just color-wise. Can you imagine how much we're actually missing? And that's okay. It's not like we're missing it. We just can't see it. We can't perceive it because we are not meant to. But don't get lost in what you think you may have lost, because you didn't lose anything. Everyone is still there, and you can go back to it anytime. And if you want to spice it up a bit, you can lucid dream. You can train yourself to lucid dream. I have lucid dreams every single night now without even trying. But at first, it was like around 12, 11, 12. I used to have this little diary and I used to write, tonight I'm going to dream about this and that. This and this is going to happen. And then I would put an alarm and then wake up in the middle of the night, chill for a few minutes, just awake, and then go back to sleep, and I would dream about whatever the heck I wanted. Okay, so if you feel like you want to actually relive it, like just full immersion without, distractions from this environment, you can do that. You can do that. Side note, I think I'm gonna make another video of this. Side note, when you dream, you're not just dreaming. You are going places. Especially women. Women, have you ever dreamt you were giving birth or you had a literal child and then you would wake up and be like, oh my God, I miss that. I miss my baby. And I have these dreams so often. It's because you literally went to a timeline. It's real and it's yours. So when we dream, we go places. So if you want to go back to that time, just have a freaking lucid dream. Yeah? Okay. So, conclusion, nothing is lost. You didn't lose anything. You didn't miss anything. Everything is still happening simultaneously. You're okay. And you can connect to the past whenever you want. It's actually very healing to do that. Obviously, don't get lost in it. But you can go back anytime you want. Okay. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Yeah. Bye.